Hey everybody, welcome to American Vindicta. We have another episode with our dear friend and personal trainer, Dan Lyons from danlyonsfitness.com, formerly known as the Patriot Trainer. So now with a updated website, we want to give that over to you guys, danlyonsfitness.com. The link to this will be in the description below. We'll also make sure it flashes on the screen so you can see it. Dan, we're going to hand it straight over to you, man. So let's get talking about fitness. What's going on today?
Yeah, sure, Doug. It's a great. Our talks are always great. I love our time together. So thanks for having me on the show, man. And yeah, I wanna talk to your audience today about some tips that they can do if they're in a situation where they're struggling with insulin resistance, diabetes, whether they are just looking to lose weight. It's kind of the same direction with the weight loss, with the insulin resistance, and in the worst case, type 2 diabetes. But before I want to do that, I kind of want to highlight the importance of why I want to talk about that. So when you talk about food that we shouldn't be eating, I can't help but think about, I don't know. I mean, you're in Texas, Doug. Are you familiar with the Senate bill? I think it was 379, taking junk food out of the SNAP program.
Yep.
Have you heard of that?
Yep. That actually upset quite a few people.
Yeah. So I kind of want to talk about that today because I have a couple updates. So for anyone that doesn't know about this bill, I think it's 379 if I remember correctly. But this bill was proposed to basically get people healthy, right? By people that are on the SNAP program, on food stamps, removing junk food from that, right? And that would have been a good thing. But the American Heart Association came out basically not in support of that. They showed up, they petitioned against it. And the irony is the American Heart Association is supposed to be helping to get us healthy, right? Well, as we all know, that's actually not what their intentions are. So if you go on the American Heart Association website, you'll see that their partners are basically big food, so big soda, and it's just like they just want to keep their partners happy. So that's why they were trying to oppose this bill. So, fast forward a couple weeks later, it was found out that there was basically this social media marketing company called Influenceable, and they were cutting checks to influencers on the, conservative side that, these influencers kind of have big followings on Twitter, and, influencers like Eric Doherty, Chad Prather, and a bunch of other ones, basically to get patriots to think that, cutting out soda from food stamps was unconstitutional. And they kind of they use the angle of, hey, Trump drinks soda, and they had the picture of Trump in his golf cart when he was drinking the soda, and they were saying, hey, if Trump does it, then we should be able to do it, and it's freedom of choice. And ironically, we don't have a choice when it comes to our tax dollars going towards that program. So our tax dollars, in my opinion, should be going towards making people healthy, not making people more sick and dependent on the system that we pay for, jacking up what we pay for, right?
Amen.
And sending all this extra money into healthcare when you really don't have to do that to begin with anyway.
Well, and not only that, but people who are poor and on this program and only go and get horrible food, which puts you right back in the pocket of the government for having to be on whatever subsidiary medication. I mean, it's this round robin effect. We're not solving anything. It almost seems like the government wants two things. They want to keep you on the eternal yo-yo, more or less, so that you can never escape unemployment versus getting a very low employment job. So it puts you right back in the government system. And not only that, but the horrific food.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Just to kind of go on off of that, it was found that these influencers were getting upwards of $1,000 per post,
Per post?
per post to basically try to corral the patriot community into supporting what the American Heart Association wants, is to make their partners happy by allowing soda and junk food to be continued to be in the SNAP program. So it's a crazy world that we live in, especially with the people that are supposed to be on our side. But you can say, oh, there's people that infiltrated or they sold out or whatever. Regardless, we can't trust everyone that's on the right or our side or whatever you want to call it, especially when it comes to selling out.
Yeah, I mean that you said it was Chad Prather. I mean, I've watched a lot of stuff that he's done. He's all about make America great again, and
Yeah.
all big supporter for Trump, and he's out there claiming to be a Christian and pushing the envelope for what conservatives and Christians and Republicans and patriots should be doing, thinking, talking, wearing, your actions. And he was really, really popular. Prather is the cowboy hat guy. He's always filming in his truck. So to hear someone like that lose the integrity by being sold out, that really sucks to hear that, because I thought, I don't watch a lot of things that the dude does. Rarely did I, but I always thought he kind of, said what most of us feel already and talked about a lot of truth. But for him to be gotten to by the big food industries, that's kind of unsettling. Not a lot of people know what this Senate bill is. I want to just read a small part of it real quick so people can understand the issue that you're talking about. So Senate Bill 379. Under Senate Bill 379, recipients would no longer be able to use their SNAP EBT cards to buy energy drinks, sweetened and carbonated beverages, so soda, prepackaged candy, chips, and cookies. The bill defines these as foods with little or no nutritional value, especially those sold in ready-to-eat packaging and intended for consumption without further preparation. Lawmakers behind the legislation argue that these restrictions are designed to align SNAP purchases with the program's original intent to provide nutritious food to low-income individuals and families with obesity and diet-related illness on the rise in Texas. Proponents of the bill believe it's time for SNAP to stop subsidizing the kinds of food that contribute to those outcomes. I mean, I agree to that.
Yeah, absolutely. The American Heart Association does not agree with that, though. And, so I did some research and I basically pulled out a handful, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that, along with Chad Prather, simultaneously on the same day at the same time started posting the same propaganda posts on Twitter about, in opposition of this bill and just in opposition of the thought countrywide of saying, hey, why are we allowing these junk foods to be subsidized? So, and again, like you said, these are names that a lot of us trust, so it's just another wake up call that we can't really trust everyone that appears to be on our side. It's like the wolves in sheep clothing analogy,
Well, these are, and I believe this is a lot of people from the Blaze TV Glenn Beck program.
Yep. So, some there. Yep.
Yeah. So compromise. We talk about the church of compromise on this channel all the time, and now we got the compromise of patriots, whatever that word even means anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So it's upsetting. And then, meanwhile, here's another interesting thing I found yesterday. It's kind of unrelated to this, but Michelle Obama came out with a sports drink. Did you know that?
All the bad things I want to say, I got to keep in here. Does it say like for him or what is it for?
Big Mike. It
Big Mike.
says Big Mike. No, it's called Plezi, Plezi. So if anyone is at the grocery store and they want a drink, do not get Plezi. Comes in 3 flavors.
Lies, communism, and socialism, or what is it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so junk food, right, is primarily based off of seed oils and added sugars and just the highly processed foods that we all know are bad, but a lot of us eat them anyway. And for people that are struggling with weight loss, they want to lose some weight, and other people that might be in more of a pre-diabetic situation or diabetic, insulin resistance, it's kind of all the same thing. You really want to be staying away from processed food. And I know that's kind of a no-brainer for a lot of people, but I find that there's a lot more people that are still eating that food, even though they know that it's bad for them. So I know I've talked about the seed oils a lot in the past. I want to talk about the bad parts of consuming sugar, because I think people say sugar when they're referring to like candy, sweets, but in reality, sugar is carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is sugar. So we're even talking about pastas and breads and even a lot of fruits and rice. I mean, all these things have their place if you're looking to gain strength in the gym, or if you're a high level athlete looking to compete, competitively. But if you're an average person who just wants to get in the best shape that you want to get into, or you want to become healthier, it's really important to know that carbohydrate in general, basically your body, when you consume carbohydrate or sugar, because we're going to use them interchangeably here, that carbohydrate breaks down into glucose. So your body only wants this very small amount of glucose in your bloodstream at all time. So that's going to be around 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of glucose. That is a very, very small amount. That's like 1 packet of sugar is 4 grams. Okay. So think of this. If you have a bagel for breakfast, that's probably going to be around 50 grams. So your body only wants 4 grams, give or take, in your bloodstream at all time. You wake up in the morning, you have 50 grams of carbohydrate. Well, what's going to happen is your body is going to take that small amount of glucose, give or take 4 grams, and it's going to take the remaining 46 grams. I'm being just exact here just for case of making a point. And it's going to store that. It's going to store that as body fat, and it's going to jack up your insulin. When your insulin is high, basically you're in 100% fat storage mode. So people that want to lose weight, if you're jacking up your insulin and consuming carbohydrate that's going to do so, you're already putting yourself in a position where you're in a fat storage state, and your growth hormone is basically in opposition of the fat storage hormone insulin, right? Growth hormone breaks down stored fat into free fatty acids that can be burned for fuel. They oppose each other. That's why growth hormone is a fat burner, quote, right? So not only when you eat a big lump of carbohydrate like that are you in fat storage mode, but you're also cutting off your growth hormone, which growth hormone is responsible for fat loss. So you're promoting fat gain, and you're not able to burn any body fat either. So if you go to the gym and you're someone that eats carbohydrate and you're trying to lose body fat, it's not really possible, especially after you eat carbohydrate, because your growth hormone is low, your insulin is high, you're in a perfect environment of gaining body fat, and not only gaining it, but you're not able to lose it either because the hormones that contribute to fat loss are being blunted by the insulin. So that's kind of an interesting point to know. And if it gets bad enough, and your body is dealing with these spikes of insulin because of too much glucose, which is caused by too much carbohydrate, you are going to eventually become insulin resistant. So insulin resistance is basically when your insulin receptors start becoming desensitized to insulin. So basically you need more insulin to do the same thing. And how do you get more insulin? You need to eat more carbohydrate. Because when you eat carbs, your pancreas releases insulin. Insulin stores that extra glucose in your body fat. And now those receptors, those insulin receptors are what's called downregulated. They're desensitized, and that's what the definition of insulin resistance means. So you can't get energy into your cells anymore unless you have more carbs. And I always use the analogy of you have a pitcher and a catcher, and you have the ball, right? The pitcher is your pancreas, and the catcher is the receptor, and the ball is insulin. So in a perfect world, when your body's functioning correctly, the pitcher pitches the ball and the catcher catches it. Well, if you have an issue where, just for an analogy purposes, the pitcher is throwing like 10 balls at the same time at the catcher can't catch any of them. The catcher gives up and says, I'm not going to catch any. That's kind of what's happening on a cellular level with your body when you're insulin resistant. The receptors just don't want to accept any more insulin. So that actually, when I said you need more insulin to do the same amount of work, now you're in even more of a fat storage state, the more insulin you release. So the higher your insulin goes, the more fat storage is happening. So for people that want to lose weight, you actually need to get the insulin down. That's the point. So how do you get the insulin down? You have to stop eating the amount of carbohydrate that you're eating. So it kind of goes along with that Senate bill, Doug, because the last thing that the powers that be want is they want us to be healthy. They don't want us to be healthy. So they want us pumping ourselves full of sugar, carbohydrate, the seed oils, just ultra processed food, because they make money off of those products. They don't make money off of grass-fed beef and, free-range eggs and healthy foods like that, natural grass-fed butter. No, they make money off of processed junk food that's mass-produced, and that they can make these foods very, very inexpensively. And then we buy them, and we become a customer for them. But then also, because we get sick, we then become a customer for Big Pharma. So that is the evil web that circulates. It's a circus, and my mission has been to try to wake people up to the horrors of this, and also try to help people realize some ways out of this mess.
I noticed donuts are not on Senate Bill 379. Which part of the food group are donuts in?
Donuts. Well, they're definitely not grass-fed beef. I'll tell you that.
The bane of my existence is donuts. It's like an old cop joke that just remains true to this day. You and I talked a lot about my diet and what I was eating and my goals with physical fitness and rehabilitating my aging body. And I'm also a strength athlete. And so I want to, maintain a certain level of peak performance. And it pretty much narrows down to what you told me, probably about 8 months ago, which is high, good protein, a little bit of carbohydrates. And honestly, the buck kind of stops there because, and I want you to dispel this because there's a lot of guys who are, our age or younger trying to get in shape. They don't know what is the proper diet. There's so many different ideas of what you should eat. And I know that's part of your program. So going on the spectrum, from people who are trying to lose weight to get healthy versus people who are trying to gain a little bit of muscle mass and lose fat and get healthy. Let's talk about that now. What should people be viewing as the proper diet? What should they be avoiding? What's the biggest scam that's out there that people are getting fed the lies? For me, I honestly think it's the whole protein powder supplement side of the industry, but where are you?
Well, yeah, no, that's true too, because a lot of the supplement industry is owned by Procter and Gamble and other large companies that are in, the food industry and the soap industry and all sorts of industries. So the supplement industry is not as decentralized as you would think, especially because when you're consuming powders, right? You're basically what happens is it flies through your stomach and hits what's called your duodenum, which is the very, very top part of your upper intestine, your long intestine, right? Or your small intestine, however you want to look at it. So the duodenum is basically the first part of that digestive process. And when you have these ultra refined powders that hit your duodenum freaks out, doesn't know what to do. It's not a real food, right? It's not protein. I mean, it is protein, but it's not protein like animal protein with the complete intact protein with all the amino acids. A lot of the time, these powders are already broken down proteins, and they're just the amino acids. They're all the essential amino acids that we need. And the marketing around there is like, oh, you need to get protein into your body. The first thing you do, like you're going to do your last exercise at the gym, you're going to leave. And before you even open the door of the gym, you need to get protein in you. That's kind of a way that the powers that be have capitalized on people trying to get healthy at the gym by selling these products that don't work. I used to spend $1,000 a month on supplements, and that was like glutamine, carnitine. I would take all the amino acids separately, and then I would take them all together, and then I would take my branched chain amino acids, and then I would take my creatine, and I would like wake up in the middle of the night to have my casein protein, and then I would wake up in the morning and have my whey protein, and I was spending way, way too much money, and I didn't even see the results that I was hoping for. So $1,000 a month, and that was when I first started working out. As soon as I stopped doing that, and this was like, 20 something years ago, as soon as I stopped doing that and started putting 1/4 of that money into food, I started to make results, right? And at that time, I just wanted to lose weight because I was a little bit chunky as a teen, and that was my goal. And then after that, I said, "Oh, I want to put on some muscle now." So I got sucked back into the trap again of the supplements. So I started doing all the same things over again. But this time I was using, more deliberate muscle building supplements. And a lot of it didn't work. And then again, I said, okay, I'm gonna stop doing that. I'm gonna eat real food now. And then when I started eating real food, I started to make progress. So
Can you
to
break
answer your question for someone that's
can you break
sorry,
down for people? Can you break down for people what real food is?
real food. So real protein from an animal source. So that's eggs, chicken, steak, fish, real carbohydrate, good healthy carbohydrate. So jasmine rice, locally grown sweet potatoes, even locally grown white potatoes are way, way better than having white pasta. All right. And then your fats are just the natural fats that you would find in nature. So you're going to get your fat within your protein sources mostly. So your red meat is going to have the fat that you need. If you have a low fat meal, you're going to want to cook it in something like beef tallow to up the fat because you need fat, right? Little side note here, fat does not make you fat. Okay. I'm a big believer that you are what you eat, except for fat, good quality, healthy fats. Your body only wants a certain amount of fat per day, and you're going to use what you need, and everything else is going to go through you. And the mechanism of how that works is that In order for your body to digest and metabolize and get anything out of dietary fat, your body needs to make what's called bile. Bile is made in your liver and then it's stored in your gallbladder. And every time you eat a fatty meal, your body knows that, and your gallbladder releases bile. Bile surrounds that fat that you just ate and helps it to pass through the walls of your intestine and get absorbed and used. Once that bile is gone for the day, you're not making any more. It's not like an infinite amount of bile that your body makes. So you can't really overeat fat. You can overeat carbohydrate though. And you can actually, to some extent, overeat protein, but it's really hard to do that. You can quite easily overeat carbohydrate, though. And then what happens is when you overeat carbs, like I said, you jack up your insulin. But also, what happens was I forgot to mention is your body undergoes something called de novo lipogenesis, is when your liver senses that there's way too much carbs in your system, there's way too much glucose, and your liver starts converting a lot of that glucose into triglycerides. And then your triglycerides get elevated. And now you're at greater risk for a stroke, a heart attack, heart disease, everything that is associated with what you don't want, right? So you cannot overeat fat. You can overeat carbohydrate though. So that's kind of just one thing I wanted to tell everyone. But to go back to your initial question of what should people be eating, it's actually really simple. I have a couple of PDFs that make it a lot easier to read. But basically, it's like you have your list of foods that are acceptable no matter what you want to do. If you want to lose weight, if you want to gain muscle, if you don't want to do anything with your weight, you just want to stay healthy, you pick from this list of foods. So for example, you're gonna have foods like I just said. You're gonna have fish, red meat, chicken, turkey, stuff like that. And then you're gonna have your carbohydrate sources that are acceptable, and then your fat sources that are acceptable. And then after that, it all comes down to how you are constructing your meals, like how many grams of this, how many grams of that. And I don't really mean weighing on a scale. You can eyeball it, and a palm-sized piece of chicken is probably going to be around 30 grams of protein. So no matter what you want to do, it's like those are the foods that you should eat. You don't need anything fancy. And then how you construct your meals is really going to make or break whether you get to your results or not. So there's many different ways to diet for what you're looking for, because there's people that are just so unhealthy, so metabolically sick that they need those foods to be structured a certain way during the day in order to reverse all the problems that they're dealing with. So for example, if they're dealing with mitochondrial dysfunction, which we've talked about before on the show, that's a situation where your cells cannot make proper energy from the food that you eat. That's the definition of energy dysregulation is another name for it. But mitochondrial dysfunction, energy dysregulation, people that are in a really bad situation with that, they need to structure their diet a certain way. Other people that might be more metabolically fit, for lack of a better word, and they want to, let's say, just increase their longevity, decrease their risk for Alzheimer's, stroke. They just want to optimize what they have and extend their life further. They're going to be eating pretty much those same foods, but they're going to be structured differently. Okay, they're going to eat at different times during the day to optimize, certain pathways. Then they're going to be people that want to just build muscle, and they might want to lose a little bit of fat, but building muscle is really what they want. And they're going to be eating the same foods too. They're just going to be structured differently. So it really all depends on what you want. But I think the supplement industry has really made it difficult for people to realize that the best thing you can do for your body is to eat basic food, just local food that is not tampered with big food, the food industry and large oil refineries that are making seed oils, and everything is packaged in something that's unrecognizable. And ultra processed food is something that you look at it and you say, this doesn't look like anything that ever came from nature. That's how you know it's a processed food. Like, for example, Rice Krispie Square, or cookies, or anything that you look at and you're like, that doesn't really look like anything that came from nature. That's what an ultra processed food is. So, so yeah, man, it's been really fun just getting everyone to understand that, getting people to realize that they need to kind of take their health seriously. But it's also been a lot of work trying to educate people on what, just letting them know that it's basic. It's basic stuff. You give your body the basic tools that it needs, and your body will do the rest. That's why we were able to survive before processed food was a thing.
Right.
So to hear the American Heart Association, circling back to the beginning here, the American Heart Association coming out saying that no, we need to include these ultra processed foods in our SNAP program. It's ultra stupidity to me, because we were able to survive perfectly fine for many, many years before these junk food poisons were ever in our diets. But now this organization, the American Heart Association, doesn't think so. They think that their products are better. Not that the American Heart Association creates products, but they're in cahoots with big food. So it's a big deception, man. And it's been quite a trip, battling up against the powers that be.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen any of that.
I see it. I see it all the time. I teach powerlifting here at our local gym. And people are, especially young guys, they're always coming up and asking me, hey, what should I do for dieting? Because everybody wants to gain mass. They want to gain size. They want to gain strength. Everyone's built a little bit differently, but I pretty much tell everyone the same thing: rice, potatoes, onions, maybe some peppers here and there, to go in it for a little bit of flavor and vitamins, maybe some carrots here and there. And then just stick with meat. Eat a lot of it. Stop eating all the processed stuff, because they're like, what's your favorite protein supplement? What's your favorite supplement? And I'm like, I do not get supplements. I have some protein powders here at the house. And I'll tell you, in all honesty, I buy those things for more or less when prophecy hits the fan. I've got a instant meal replacement. It's not the greatest, but it is a meal replacement, and it only takes water. In that stance, protein powders aren't terrible for that, but it's not something you should take every day. It always hurt my stomach. I drink raw milk. We'll be going to the farm here right as soon as we get done with this interview. And we're going to go and buy 8 gallons of raw milk. We'll drink one of them today. And probably freeze 3 of them. I got to drop 2 of them off to a buddy of mine. But
yeah,
I mean, grass fed beef, elk, bison, buffalo, whatever you want to call it. I love to eat deer. I eat pork. I grew up on wild hog, and anything that came out of the water, we ate it. Of course, if you ever watch Swamp People, that's where I'm from. And so, I tell people, like, there's if you go to the store to buy stuff that's wrapped in plastic and you don't know where it's from, you probably shouldn't eat it. If you want to, how much healthier is it in cheaper in the long run to try and go and get a quarter of a cow, half a cow, go in with a couple families, buy a cow and split it up 4 ways, and you've got a lot more meat. It's fresh. You know what it is. You know what it isn't. And, per pound, you're going to spend less money compared to the jacked up prices that's going on in the store right now. I mean, steaks are $5 to $8 more expensive than they were a couple months ago. And I don't honestly foresee that price going down. I mean, if you're a hunter, take advantage of deer season, bag you a couple deer every year. If you're a fowler, go out and shoot as many ducks as possible. That's your limit. And duck is red meat. But we raise duck and geese and chicken and fowl here. And I mean, that's right now. They don't know it, bless their hearts, but I'm fattening up my geese right now because pretty soon they're going to be a summer goose. Um,
Nice.
but I like, here's my thing, and please chime in. Meal prepping is probably the next biggest adventure that we need to talk about. Um, I cook my food in order to give me about 3 to 4 meals for 3 days. So I'll have, between 12 and 14 Tupperwares, and I'll do that for 3 days. I should make sure I eat all that food, and then I recook again, because
Hmm.
steak on day one tastes different at day 7 or 8 when you've forgotten it and you've replaced it with Domino's and McDonald's and Burger King and all that. It's easier to cook a smaller amount of food, and it saves you a little bit of money. Your food is fresher, and eat that for 3 days. And that's how me and my wife have done it for the longest time. We got a meal prep today. So that's how we'll do it. It's easier for the kids. It's easier for
Hmm.
us. And I real quick before I pass you on I pass this back to you for meal prepping. What do you think about sauces and hot sauces that people put on the foods? Because I know some people who physically cannot eat eggs unless it's got hot sauce on them. I know people who cannot eat steak unless it's got A1 or something else on it.
Yeah.
Are the sauces just as bad?
No, no, they're not. I mean, a lot of them go against everything I just said about the processing, but in reality, okay, it's a spectrum. If you want to go as natural as possible, you're going to just use Celtic sea salt for your seasoning, and you're not going to have anything else besides butter and Celtic sea salt on your steak. If you are so this is why it's a spectrum, right? Because then so that's one end of the spectrum, but at the other end of the spectrum you have a good at least half of the country eating processed food. So it's not as black and white. So like if you have someone that wants to get healthy, they are consuming processed food and it's just too difficult and radical to them to go so far the other direction that it's just Celtic sea salt and butter on their steak, then yeah, you can use sauces because you're kind of most of the way there. But I would say that to your point, hot sauces and A1 and stuff like that are going to be probably your best bet. Usually mustards are okay too. Mustards, steak sauces like Worcestershire, and it's not as good as not having those things and just having Celtic sea salt and butter, but it's way, way better than having the processed junk. Okay. So one thing that you definitely do not want to have is any sauce that contains a seed oil. So usually in this country, that's going to be soybean oil, but you'll also see canola oil. And usually what I've found is even the sauces that claim to be um, organic and healthy, they're still going to have soybean oil. The real junky condiments, sauces are going to have soybean oil. They're going to have also sunflower, safflower oil, and canola oil. So you want to stay away from anything that has those oils. And you also want to stay away from anything that has dyes. So anything that you say that says like blue 1, red 40, green 5, any of those things that have like a color, you want to stay away from those. You also kind of want to stay away from things like silicon dioxide and things that you can't really pronounce. Okay. So the easiest thing to do is like you mentioned before, get yourself a hot sauce if you need it. Hot sauce is generally okay. You can also make your own hot sauce. That depends on how much time you want to, spend on this whole process. But usually hot sauces are just cayenne pepper, and the cayenne pepper could be genetically modified. And that's why I say, okay, well, hot sauce is all right, but it's not as good as something like just Celtic sea salt and butter because it's kind of inescapable, right? So the cayenne peppers could be genetically modified. They could be flavor enhanced. You just really don't know. But having something like that on your steak is way better than having processed food. You understand what I'm trying to say here? Because again, it's a spectrum of where people are at. And I'm a big believer in helping people, meeting them where they're at. I've been doing this a long time, helping people. A lot of people are ready to change and they'll do whatever it takes. A lot of people want to change, but they're kind of resistant to it. So if you take someone that they know they're overweight, they know they need to get in shape, and you tell them you can't have any sauces, just Celtic sea salt and butter, they're going to feel defeated. They're not going to want to change. They're not going to even want to put their mind in that direction because it's so extreme to them. So what I find is inching people closer towards eating well is the best bet, especially when I'm working with someone one-on-one, because that I can really kind of work with them and their specific needs and kind of diagnose where they're at. So that's a long-winded way of saying sauces are okay. They're not the absolute best, but they're okay. Just stay away from anything that contains seed oils and you're doing okay. And extra sugar too, because sometimes like the really sweet barbecue sauces will have a lot of added sugar. Now, if it were up to me and I had two sauces next to each other and I had to have a sauce, one of them was low carb but had seed oils, and the other one was high carb but didn't have seed oils, I would pick the high carb one if I had to pick one. So in my mind, seed oils are the worst. Added sugar is almost as bad, but at least the added sugar doesn't damage your cells. It does, but it doesn't really. Seed oils can actually damage your nucleus, which means that you start pumping out misfolded proteins, which can spiral into cancers. So we don't want that. So stay away from seed oils.
Yeah, RFK had a big thing he was talking about with seed oils, and that he said he was going to actually start to come after the health and wellness companies and those who are producing more or less fake health products. And I thought that was really interesting. I'm not the biggest RFK fan, but if he can help get rid of the dyes that are in everything, I mean literally everything. If he can help get rid of some of the poison that's in these foods, it would be helpful. Most of these food companies, the stuff that they make here in America to sell to Canada, to Europe, it already doesn't have half the crap that's allowed in here in America. So it's not like they can't make it healthy. They do make it healthy. For other countries that are like, you're not giving me all this poison, you're not giving me all the dyes, and I don't want the carcinogens in it. And the health food's like, oh, well, gee, that's what makes everything taste so great. We just won't put that in there for you. But then they'll make it and put it right in your store where your kid is wanting that, frosted cover, sweet treat that is actually just filled with poison. It's despicable. I mean, it's really diabolical, dude.
It is. And that is, in my belief, the reason that people that are allergic to gluten, they can't have wheat in this country, but they go to another country and they can have wheat and have no reaction at all. I don't really think it's about the gluten at all. I think it's about the glyphosate that they spray on the crops, and people are having reactions to the glyphosate, and it's triggering an immune response, and then you become inflamed. If it was really the gluten, then why are all these anecdotal stories about people traveling overseas, going to Italy, having pasta and being 100% fine? And the same thing goes with milk too. I know you mentioned that you get raw milk. Well, milk in this country has a lot of seed oils in it, believe it or not. And it's the cows are loaded with antibiotics, and it's triggering an autoimmune response in us and causing us inflammation. I'm actually doing a Substack article on this very thing. I think it was the American Academy of Neurology. They came out with a study. It was a 25-year data study of people that consumed low-fat processed milk. And when I say processed, that's the opposite of the raw milk you were describing.
The ultra
And
pasteurized stuff.
yeah, pasteurized. And this is from cows that eat grain, that grain's super high in linoleic acid, which is the biggest offender in seed oils. That's why I say this milk has seed oils. It's not really that it has seed oils. It's that it's loaded with linoleic acid that comes from the grain that the cows eat, and that's for commercially prepared and commercially grown cows. But there was a link between people that have low fat, commercially, processed, grown cows and milk and Parkinson's disease. So basically, a good percentage of these people in this study that I'm doing on Substack, I can actually get the exact numbers for you if you hold on a second. Yeah, it was a 25-year study, just over 80,000 women and almost 50,000 men. And this study, there was a little bit over 1,000 people out of that entire pool that developed Parkinson's disease. And it was from low-fat processed milk. Now, they also did another study on basically the exact same things, but the milk was raw milk, full fat, and the percentage of people that develop Parkinson's was way, 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 way lower. So I'm not saying that processed milk actually causes Parkinson's. I'm saying that there's a correlation here, and you never know what else these people were eating, which leads me to believe that people that typically go for conventional low-fat milk are usually the people that are going to be consuming more sugar in general and more low-fat foods, because they're under the impression that fats are bad for you. So I wish this study looked at what else they were eating, but it's a good snapshot and a good indicator to me that the people that were, for this 25-year period, consuming low-fat milk every day were probably putting their low-fat milk in a bowl of cereal in the morning. And when you take out the fat and you put in, your cereal with your low-fat milk, you're jacking up the glycemic index of that food, which means that the sugar that you're having has more of an impact on you. If you add back in fat, you actually lower the glycemic index of the food that you're eating. So if you're someone that absolutely has to have cereal, I do not endorse cereal. I don't think that cereal is a good idea. Cereal is ultra processed food. But if you're someone that has to have cereal, have less and use full fat milk, ideally raw milk. But even if you don't do raw milk, again, it's a spectrum. We got to meet people where they're at. So even if you're not doing raw milk, have a higher percentage fat milk. Don't go for the skim milk. Don't go for the 1%. Go for the whole milk. Even the pasteurized stuff is going to have less of an impact than the low fat milk. So anyway,
Before we wrap it up here, what's a good thing for people who, let's say the ordinary working man, and I'll just say the working man as in those who normally do outside jobs, because there's a lot of those who listen to us, construction, whatnot. I used to do construction way back in the day. And I understand that, my diet used to be whatever I could eat for calories' sake, which typically involved, because I was poor, Vienna sausage, saltine crackers, a block of cheddar, cheese, maybe an onion, and Pop Tarts, and whatever else you can freaking afford to get on by the 7-Eleven on your way to work sometimes. Um, what's a simple, easy meal that's very healthy for you, easy to make, and still, taste good the 11th hour of the day?
Um, I mean, I'm going to go back to what I said originally, but first of all, you have to carve time out of your day to say, you know what? There's no way around it. I need to make my food. Okay, that's a big thing is going down to 7-Eleven to get your food is not going to end well no matter what you choose. All right. It's only going to end well if like you're like, okay, I'm going to go down to 7-Eleven and I'm going to sit in my car and eat my meal that I made at home in my car. That's the only way that going to 7-Eleven is going to be a good thing. But it goes back to what you were saying, Doug, about meal prepping. You need to prepare meals ahead of time so you can grab one and eat it. And to answer your question that you just asked, it depends on what you like. Like I know a lot of people that they never get sick of ground beef and they never get sick of jasmine rice. They just like to vary the flavor a little bit. And so I say to them, all right, well, you're going to prepare a lot of servings of your ground beef and your rice, and you're going to have that. And that's going to be way, way, way better for you than going to 7-Eleven or going to a sub shop. Even if I always say shop local, but a local sub shop is not the same as shopping local. So it's way better if you make your food, and of that food, it's better if you get your meat local. So if you get your meat local, you know what's in it. You can talk to the farmer. Don't go to the grocery store to get your meat. And just, we don't need to give the grocery store any more money because most of those products are not decentralized. It's owned by the big conglomerate food industry, which is controlled by BlackRock. So if we can do many things at the same time, we can make ourselves healthy and we can go up against what we're fighting against, right? By just shopping locally and eating as clean as we can and growing our own food too. I didn't even mention that. So growing your own food is going to be the epitome of how you should eat, right? It depends on where you live, of course. I'm up in Maine and the growing season is pretty short. So you're going to have to do some canning, or you're going to eat fruits and vegetables when they're in season. And then for the rest of the year, you're going to eat meat because you're going to get all your vitamins and minerals out of meat. The same vitamins and minerals that are in plants are also in meat, but it has to be grass fed because it's the food chain. So if you have a grass fed cow that's eating grass, that grass contains a lot of vitamins and minerals. And for that cow is going to now produce meat that's high in vitamins and minerals. So then when you eat that piece of meat, you're going to be getting those vitamins and minerals secondhand. That's how it works its way down the food chain. But if you go to the grocery store and get meat, you're not getting any of those vitamins and minerals because those cows are pumped full of grain, which has close to no nutrition at all. So that kind of brings me to another point is a lot of these studies that are saying red meat causes cancer, red meat causes obesity, all this stuff. Well, they fail to say that the red meat that they're talking about is red meat from the grocery store, which is entirely nutrient deficient. Okay, so it's not talking, all these studies are not talking about grass-fed beef. They're talking about conventionally grown beef from the grocery store, which you want to stay away from anyway. And a lot of people will say, it's more expensive to go to a local farm and get grass-fed beef. Well, actually, no, it's not anymore. It's probably about the same price, or in some cases, it's actually less expensive to get grass-fed beef. Because for the local farmer, they don't have to get grain shipped in from another country. They just let the cows eat what's on the field. So they can afford to now undercut the grocery stores. And in my case, up here in Maine, I get grass-fed ground beef for like $6 a pound, $7 a pound. If I go to Walmart, it's like $8 a pound. And that's in Maine, and I guarantee it's that same way in other parts of the country too. So there's really no excuse. We should all be eating grass-fed beef and free-range chickens and grow your own food. And no matter how much I say all that, I just still can't say it enough.
Yeah, I know. I know. I mean, it's like our mindset for homesteading is to try to be able to supplement as much of whatever we can grow or, raise here, and not have to get anything from the store, because I know what my chickens eat. They're free range. I know what my geese eat. I know what my duck eats. And I mean, right now I've got my geese are laying eggs, so I've got about 20 to 30 geese eggs and or goose eggs. And I mean, if you ever had a goose egg, it's freaking huge.
Yeah.
So, it's I think to the best of your ability, you should be raising small batches of animals. It's you don't have to overcomplicate this. There is a learning curve with animals, but I mean, for the most part, from the rabbit to the chicken to the duck to the goose, um, you know, getting their food can be hard at times, especially with chicken, and because it's all coming from, pre-mixed protein meals and all this type of stuff. And that supplement added to it. But I would rather feed my chickens from what I get from the feed store and let them graze than eat something that's hormonally injected chickens that kind of aren't even really chickens anymore.
Yeah.
And the antibiotics that's in it. I mean, I would rather go this route. And our chickens are not as big as the stuff that you get from the store because they're not filled with the hormones. And
Yeah.
so and they're a little bit gamier because that's the way they're naturally supposed to be. So, it's I think Americans should really start to consider to go back to that route, because dude, the day the food supply cuts off, what you going to do? You're going to be Mad Maxing yourself out there in, the freaking Walmart trying to get food, while so is, all the other 10,000 people most likely that live around you. So provide for
Well,
yourself.
that's a really dangerous reality, is that we can sit back right now, and minute to minute, day to day, we're fine, right? But what happens when we're not fine? How are we going to be able to survive? So my one of my missions has been trying to get through to people with this, to say, hey, listen, I know that we live in a convenient society right now. I know that there's a lot going on and it gets busy. And the last thing that you want to do is start preparing from the inevitable. But you really need to start at least putting your mind there and get yourself to a point where if you need to sustain yourself, you at least have a plan, because we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we know what's going to happen because we read the Bible. And I don't know about you, Doug, but I don't remember anything in the Bible about Trump. I'm not saying that I'm against Trump. I'm saying that I am in the position where I'm not looking for any man to save me. I put my faith in God, and what the Bible says is what I believe. And if God put Trump here to kind of, wake us up a little bit so we can extend the inevitable, then that's great. But we just don't know. We don't know what God's plan is. And we need to respect God by taking this seriously,
Amen.
and respect our own bodies and saying we need to protect our families. Doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Obviously, being a man, you're the man of the house, but also the woman has a responsibility too. The kids have everyone has a responsibility, the grandparents. So no matter what your age is, it's not too late to, first of all, get yourself in shape, but second of all, get your mindset ready for what could potentially be coming. And I don't mean to say that as an alarmist. I just trust the Bible a lot more than I trust anything that is going on in the world today that you see in politics.
Yeah. 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 I recently did an interview with a brother. We're from Tactical Civics. We're going to be talking about what the Constitution was originally supposed to be and how people can do their job first, starting with God in their house and getting their lives in order with God. And then how do we apply the Constitution? Well, it's kind of the same thing that we're talking about now.
Mm,
Getting your life in order, getting your health in order. So one thing, you're not a liability and you're an asset, right? I'm very big into community building, especially from the very small level.
yeah.
I mean, I've got 5 acres. I can utilize 5 acres and do quite a lot of things on it, and we have, right? And so if you're a family that has acreage, it's not hard to set up bees for local honey, a place to put, goats, pigs, maybe some cattle out there, a place to set up chickens. And, if other families want to come in and help and they want to be able to, get the fruits of that labor and help you with, homesteading and farming. Well, now we got a little economy growing right there. And it's
Yeah.
very easy to barter. I've bartered with chicken eggs for dirt work here at my house. Now, once again, in one day I can get close to 90 eggs, but you know, to me, I would rather be able to give back with something that's good, that's healthy, that you're going to eat, that you need. And if I can exchange that for labor, if I can exchange something like that for, helping out with a project that I got going on, then that's a successful way to barter. Big brother's not in your business and everybody's getting something out of it. And
Yep.
as a small community, that's the direction we should be going. That's the way the church should be structured. And this is a question that I had last night with the same guy that I'm talking about, Kevin. And I'm like, why doesn't the church set itself up so that the church has its own field for crops? The church has its own field for cattle. The church has its own field for, chickens, right? The church has its own place for an aid station in case somebody got hurt. Or, there's a place where the church is there to help the community. The community is not there to give their money to the church to build another basketball arena. I mean, we're going completely antithetical to the way this society is supposed to be built. Christ as the head, and yet we're all over the place. And so, if the church isn't going to fix itself, and the government won't fix itself, and you can't rely upon local, you can't rely upon state, you can't rely upon federal response. You need to take care of yourself. You need to be able to self-extract, self-rescue, self-defend, and also supply. And when Americans figure that out and they take the selfishness out and put selflessness back in, then we'll start to fix this country. We'll start to fix the family. We'll start to fix the church. But at the same time, as you said, I don't wait for any man to save me. I wait for the return of our Lord Jesus. And until then, to be as helpful to my neighbor that I love the same as I do my own family. And that's all I can do, man. Patiently endure, try not to be a hindrance, be the salt of the world, be the light of the world, follow after Christ. And yeah, man, take care of the flock to the best of our ability. And for you, that part is making sure that the flock isn't sick, unhealthy, dragging everyone else down, and that the flock also stops eating at the wolves' dinner table. So,
Yeah. Amen to all of that. Wow. Yeah, you're so right. Yeah. So I want to mention to anyone that's interested, if you go to my website, danlyonsfitness.com, and you're interested in getting yourself healthy, I have a 12-week online personal training and nutrition program that is $79 right now. It's that price because it's springtime and I'm trying to just get a lot of people healthy. I don't don't really make a lot of money off of these because it's a lengthy program, 12 weeks long. And if anyone's interested, you go to my website again, danlyonsfitness.com, and you go to the upper left and you click on 12-week body transformation, and you will see my program. And if you enter the promo code Doug, you'll actually save 20% off of the $79. So you actually get it for a really good price if you enter that promo code Doug. So wanted to just mention that for people if they're looking for guided personal training sessions and nutrition meal plans. It doesn't matter how old you are. Doesn't matter. I mean, I think my oldest one in here is in their 80s, and my youngest one is probably in their 40s. So I give accommodations for the exercises. So, it can be done by anyone, and I have male, female. It's a good mix. So if anyone's interested, check that out. We'll leave a link below.
Yeah, I think that program's something people should check out. It has 26 pre-recorded personal training sessions, so you can work out at your own pace. Nutrition plans that involve weight loss, muscle toning. It's friendly for beginners. You get direct access through Dan where you can actually ask him questions and he'll answer them. And the only equipment needed is dumbbells, a mat, and an exercise ball. If you don't have a lot of time, if you don't want to go to the gym and be around a bunch of people, you want to do it in the privacy of your own home from someone who actually cares about you, this is the program for you.
Absolutely. Amen to that.
Well, Dan, what's your final words, buddy?
Final words. It's just been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure being on here. I really love your audience. I love talking to you, Doug. You're like a brother to me, so I like that. And I just want to say to everyone, thanks for tuning in. And I hope you got a lot out of this. And that's about it. Just thanks for having me on again, Doug. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. We do our best to try and get Dan on at least every month once, or maybe every other month, but we'll try to make sure we start getting you back on more and more. Of course, all the things that we've been dealing with, so we're going to get back in the saddle on this. But our goal, make America healthy again by using common sense. What a uncommon thing nowadays to use common sense approaches.
I know, Dan, right?
Yeah, Dan, it's been great. Thanks for coming on, buddy. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any comments, please put it in the comment section below. If there's a question in there, I'll make sure that it gets to Dan, or you can go straight to Dan's website, sign up for that 12-week program. You can put in Doug as the discount code for 20% off. If you really feel that the Lord's pulling you to get in shape, do it now. Get off the couch, get off your butt, get in shape now, become an asset, stop being a liability. That's all we got, guys. We love you. Thank you. God be with you all. Stay frosty. We'll see you next time. What's the need for training? We train because we care about others. We agree to stand, fight, and die for those we love. Become an asset to your community, not a liability. Visit vindictivesolutions.com. Come get some training. Acta, non verba. Deeds, not words.
Hey, I'm Dan Lyons, and I'm a personal trainer. I'm here to help patriots understand why they have trouble losing weight. See, the globalists use specific chemicals in our foods, and these chemicals do two things. Number one, these chemicals destroy our ability to create cellular energy from the food that we eat. So this means now we're eating food and we're storing that food as body fat instead of burning that food for fuel. And number two, these chemicals destroy fatty acid beta oxidation, which is your body's own mechanism of burning body fat. So this is why everyone has trouble losing weight. Do you remember how easy it was for you to lose weight when you were in your early 20s? What if I told you that you could get that back? I put together a comprehensive online nutrition course for patriots who want to fix their metabolism and start losing weight again. The course comes with 13 interactive lessons, an optional graded final exam, 4 downloadable guides, all to help you make better choices while shopping, 1 beginner sample workout to get you started on your exercise program, a 20-minute abdominal and core workout video, along with much more. Throughout this course, you will have the opportunity to ask me questions and connect with other like-minded patriots. Reclaim your metabolism today.
Have you been looking for a trusted long-term storable food company? We have a solution for you. Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our line of resealable fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Our food is completely GMO-free, and our stringent quality controls, plus testing for heavy metals, makes us unique in the storable foods market. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. When you purchase from simplycleanfoods.net, not only will you be receiving high-quality food, but you will also be supporting veterans in need across the country and those who are affected by natural disasters. Right now, Amazon Prime members will receive fast 2-day shipping. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's simplycleanfoods.net. But do it today.
Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum has said, "You will own nothing and you will love it." And that's represented by what's going on across the planet today, where the economy of the world is in free fall, and nowhere is it more in evidence than with our own President Biden deliberately trying to sabotage what we have. Access to food, other resources. So Americans are in a unique position, really for the first time in our history. We're going to have to provide for ourselves or subject ourselves to the whim of the government. Do you really trust a government to feed you that left 1,000 Americans behind enemy lines in Afghanistan? I don't think so. So where do you go? When you ask the question, who's the best prepper out there today? There's only one answer. Ready-Made Resources and Robert Griswold. I call him King Prepper. And that's how a lot of people think of him. You have everything there you'd want, from night vision to storable food, how to prepare cooking in emergency situations, books and videos on how to prepare alternative energy, communication, first aid that you wouldn't think of, natural antibiotics, you name it. Bob has it. Now, here's the good thing about Bob Griswold that no one else does but him. You don't have to buy anything to talk to him. If you're not sure where to start with your preparation, no obligation phone call directly to Bob. You can talk to him for free. Most people will charge you an arm and a leg for a half-hour conversation. That's not Bob Griswold. He cares about helping America get prepared. Go to readymaderesources.com, or you can call the number directly at 800-627-3809. Again, that contact information, readymaderesources.com, for the best prepping outfit in the country, or call Bob Griswold directly, 800-627-3809.